Hi, I'm Bruno Aziza, and today I'm here with Joe, who's VP of Marketing here at Datameer. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Now, today we're talking about analytics on top of Hadoop and big data. Now, you've been in the space for a while. You've worked for Informatica and many of the big players here, so you've got a lot to share with us about the last mile in big data. Tell us a little bit about Datameer, what you guys do.
Sure. As you know, Hadoop is kind of a new paradigm in the storage and computation of, quote, big data. Mm-hmm. Datameer is a BI platform on top of Hadoop. So we use Hadoop as the back-end storage and compute engine to be able to bring data in, to be able to analyze it, and to visualize that data in virtually any form you want to use.
So as we talk about analytics, many of the folks in the audience are familiar with the process of doing analytics. You built a data warehouse, there's some integration work, some quality work, and then you port that to data tools that allow you to do some analysis. How does big data change the world, or change the game here in this case?
Yeah, it really presents both challenges and opportunities. As you said, historically, BI systems required you to build some sort of data model, a star schema, a snowflake, or an OLAP cube or something. And the reason you did that is because you had limitations of storage and compute. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you couldn't build a big enough computer to be able to throw all the data in. What Hadoop does is basically unlock storage and compute, and you can have virtually an unlimited amount of that. And the advantages is you don't have to build those data models. You just throw everything into Hadoop, and you turn the end user, the data scientist, the BI analyst, the business user, loose in that data. That has several advantages. One, it increases very, very fast your time to market or your time to analytics, right? Mm-hmm. I can immediately start working on the data the hour I pull the data in. I don't have to wait 6 months for some folks to go off and build an enterprise data warehouse. The second piece is I have all my data there. So typically what we've seen happen in the limitation of traditional BI is that you had to know the questions you want to ask in order to be able to build a data model. Yep. And what happens is with a BI analyst or data scientist, he or she finds, boy, there's a lot more questions I'd love to ask, but I can't. I have to go back to my data modelers. And so when we turn people loose on the data, then we have all of this data and all this compute power, and we can start asking and answering questions over and over and over again. Ultimately, you get to better results. So typically what happens is I might go for a couple of weeks on a single data set. And the interesting thing about the way business is conducted today is that the pace of business has changed dramatically. New data is coming in all the time. New data sources are coming in all the time. I can't wait 6 months. I can't even wait 6 weeks to get the answer to the next analytic problem that I want to solve. With Hadoop, I just keep putting that data in because I've got unlimited storage and compute, and I can keep asking those questions over and over and over again.
The other point as well is that you had to make the choice of what data you capture before,
exactly.
Right? I mean, beyond just structuring the data so you can analyze it, you had to make trade-offs. Here, you don't just bring in everything and then...
A good analysis, and this might be a great anecdotal story. If you have you think a fraudulent credit card transaction on your statement, you call them up, they will always say, oh, don't worry about it, we'll take it off your bill. You know why? No. Because it costs them...
You don't have the data?
Yeah. They have already spun it off on tape. It cost them $27,000 per terabyte, typically, to store that transaction data. It's $300 on Hadoop per terabyte, and it's live. So the next time you call, if you get one of our customers, they may actually challenge that you said, I didn't actually have that transaction, because they can go
look probably have the data.
At the transaction. Yeah.
That's
so
good.
It's a pretty big change. What we're seeing is a lot of customers are now using Hadoop as the enterprise data store. They might be feeding data warehouses, they might be feeding Datameer, but it's so cheap now to pull all of your data in that they're just storing everything.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because it used to be totally different. In the old days of doing business intelligence, you had to choose specifically what you wanted to analyze. So it just kind of unlocks a lot of possibilities with big data now. So this is primarily for a CIO whose team has decided to bet on Hadoop, and they're interested in finding out what's going on in the data that they're acquiring through the system. Now, how would this differentiate with a regular front-end analytical tool?
Well, Hadoop changes everything, really, in terms of its ability to do several things really well. One, it scales virtually infinitely as the data volumes grow. So you can start with a couple, 3 nodes, and you can go all the way up to 4,000 and soon to be 6,000 nodes. So you've got scalability built in. The second piece, and this is something that most people don't understand fully, Hadoop doesn't really know or care what it's processing. So the ability to process not only the traditional structured data that normal BI systems use, but really structured data and unstructured data such as email or Twitter feeds or Facebook information or machine logs or sensor data. And that gives us the ability now to really ask and answer questions we were never able to do before because of limitations around either storage or around this ability to correlate structured with unstructured data.
Now, if I've made a bet on Hadoop today, as a customer, this might be somebody in retail, financial services. I would say the majority of organizations today are experiencing this need for big data. What do I have to do in order to plug in your solution? Is this a development platform, or can anybody use the tool?
Yeah, we've designed the system to basically overcome some of the limitations of Hadoop in general, and that is Hadoop is a very raw platform. It is a back-end storage compute engine, but it doesn't have any end-user functionality. So if you wanted to use it for analytics, you would actually have to write Java code in order to be able to get data in, to be able to analyze that data, and to visualize it. So what Datameer has done is basically put end-user functionality for data integration, for analytics, and for visualization on top of Hadoop so that end users, you and I, data scientists, BI analysts, people who don't have any technical skills necessarily, can instantly get up and running and start analyzing data on day one.
So we're talking about time to market, obviously, for an IT organization to enable their end users to interact with the data that they have. You also have over 180 functions as part of your tool. As you're growing with the use of the data, can you do more with the tool?
Yeah, you can do several things in addition to what we already offer. One of the advantages of Datameer is it's a completely open platform. So if you've done other analytics, even in other analytics systems like statistics in R or particular algorithms in a SAS or an SPSS, you can actually take those and import them into Datameer and use those functions against this big data store called Hadoop to be able to get all the value you've had out of those existing algorithms, but run them without any changes inside of Datameer. And the idea of end-user functionality is really about drag and drop. So the idea of, if we want to bring data in, we have 20 pre-built connectors to get data into Hadoop. So that's traditional data sources, DB2, MySQL, Microsoft SQL Server, all the other popular databases, but at least as important, we have connectors to all the unstructured data sources. So email formats and Twitter and machine log and those types of formats, those have been the difficult things to get in, and those are literally drag and drop type of functions. So if I want to go get a data source, I just need to know 3 things. Where's the data? What data do I want to bring in? And how often do I want to bring it in? And then it automatically brings that data in with no coding. What's actually going on in the background is Datameer is actually executing MapReduce code under the covers.
So we've talked a lot about the technology. Give me examples of how an analyst would use this.
Both, BI analysts, business analysts, and now data scientists have all of this power of the back-end piece of Hadoop in terms of the amount of data that they can analyze and the types of data. That lends itself to a whole new set of problems that frankly were very, very difficult to get answers to before. Things like customer sentiment analysis and market basket analysis and very complicated click path analysis of how website users are making their way through people's websites. And so that's why we've built all this pre-built analytic functionality. At last count, something on the order of 200 functions that basically lets you drag and drop these functions in a spreadsheet-like a format. So that if you're used to Microsoft Excel, it's very easy to use this format to build what amounts to analytic workbooks. And you build these out. We have customers that have done hundreds of these. And basically you're building a set of algorithms to analyze the data. Things from as mundane as database joins, joining 2 columns of data, all the way through to grouping and those types of functions, ultimately, you get to an end result of a data set.
Yep.
The interesting thing that's going on under the covers, though, and you have a lot of problems or challenges that big data brings to the table, right? One of which is, how do I interact with data that's, say, 3 petabytes? Well, what Datameer does, and this is patent pending technology, is we actually work with a scientific subset of the data in that spreadsheet paradigm. So I can go through and try a bunch of different things until I get to the right analytic result set, and then say,
and you
okay,
can launch it into
I
the
launch it into
data set.
Hadoop, and it may go against 4,000 servers and petabytes of data. Ultimately, then, when I get done, I have an analytic set of workbooks that can then run on a day-to-day, month-to-month, week-to-week, hour-to-hour basis. And then I can use our visualization technology to say, I want to drag and drop and create wizards, charts, graphs, dashboards, maps that help me visualize this data. The interesting thing about big data is you're visualizing not only traditional spreadsheet transaction type data, but also this interaction type data. So I get some possibilities for visualization to be able to ask and answer questions I simply couldn't do before.
This is interesting. So as a customer, how would I get started here? Is it my IT organization that's buying the product? Is it a department inside the organization that's doing this configuration? You know, take me maybe through one of the examples of one of your customers.
So typically it is kind of the business side of the organization with IT's help.
Okay.
I mean, today, even today, most people don't go off and just buy a technology solution without getting the IT folks involved. But typically it's end users, it's data analysts, it's somebody who really needs to do analytics on big data, saying, gee, I've heard about this Hadoop thing, I really like the idea that it's very cost effective, it's very scalable, and I can do lots of analytics. Let's go figure out what we want to do. Mm-hmm. Typically what would happen is they would pick a distro. Yeah. That could be the Apache Hadoop open source or one of the commercial distributions, and then they would say, okay, now what do we do? Let's go find an application to run on top of this to do analytics, and that's where Datameer comes in.
So here we're talking about the platform and the analytic layer, but what you're unveiling for us is the importance of the connection to the backend and the data sources. Do you have preferences, or you're going after all types of available distributions?
Datameer takes the philosophy that we want to support everybody. So we're very agnostic. We call ourselves the Switzerland of Hadoop. So we support Apache Hadoop, which is the open source version, IBM's distro, Cloudera's, EMC's, MapR's, Hortonworks, and everybody else who has a significant distro out there. We really let the customer decide what they want to pick in terms of the distro. We do the engineering effort to make sure that Datameer runs and takes advantage of all the particular features on that individual distro.
So this is an important point. As you're thinking about which distribution model you're going to follow, you know that you have a tool just like Datameer that allows you to connect to your choice. Now, you've also done some work to integrate and partner with Microsoft. Tell us what you're doing there, and then maybe kind of your point of view on why partner with Microsoft on this.
Well, for several reasons. One, we are doing the technical integration. Microsoft is obviously a worldwide player, has lots of customers, does a lot of great support, and a lot of what you need with Hadoop is to be able to get help in getting the cluster up and running and being able to do that. By having Microsoft as a partner, that frankly opens up a very large distribution potential channel for us in terms of those types of customers. What we're doing is on the engineering side of things to make sure that Datameer takes advantage of all those features that Microsoft has put in through Azure, and make sure that that stuff runs seamlessly so that when somebody fires up your distribution, Datameer will run on top. And frankly, you almost want to make the Hadoop part of this invisible to the customer. The analogy is like running an ERP system. I really don't know or care as an end user what the database is under the cover that's running on. It might be running on Microsoft SQL, or it might be running on DB2 or Oracle. I really don't care. I'm more interested as a business user on what the end user functionality is.
That's great. Well, thank you for helping us thinking through this. Now, if people want to find out more, they go to datameer.com. That's the URL we're putting down for you. Thank you very much again, Joe.
That's great. Thank you.
Until next time, I'm Bruno Azizo.